When the going gets rough, you know how the saying goes. Sometimes things happen. Life happens, and it's not always our fault. In this podcast, we'll feature real-life testimonials from people like you, from good times to bad, funny memories and hard lessons learned. Everyone has a story, and everyone has been there. From business owners to parents to young adults, the Hive 5 aims to tell stories of overcoming the struggles of adulting while celebrating the little victories of life. In each podcast, our guests will give insight to 5 key takeaways from someone who's been there and done that, leaving you better than when you started. Thank you so much for listening today. My name is Kagan with BriteBee, and today we have the pleasure of speaking with Al Mauceri with Mauceri-Bynum Insurance Agency in McKinney, Texas. How are you, Al?
I'm doing great, Keegan. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for getting on this podcast. You actually scheduled on short notice, and we really appreciate your flexibility.
Oh, that's okay. That's the beauty of being an agent. You have a lot of flexibility.
Yes, you are right about that. Well, Al, let's just start off, to tell a little bit about you of what I know. The one thing we know is that you've had a lot of experience in the insurance world.
Yeah, for good or bad. Yes, I've been around quite a long time.
You've seen it all. So you have seen the good, you've seen the bad, you've also seen a lot of the changes.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been in the industry since 1994. I started in Charlotte, North Carolina as a claim adjuster. The lowest level of claim adjuster you could possibly be.
Well, you got to start somewhere.
Right.
So that's not a bad deal. It gives you perspective, I bet.
Yeah, it does. It really does. There's no place better to start than the absolute bottom.
That's right. Well, Al, tell us just a little bit about your agency and what products you offer, and also just some companies that you'd like to highlight.
Yeah, we are an independent agency, so we're really a broker model as opposed to the State Farm and Allstates and the captives of the world. I like to tell people we're like the Orbits of insurance. We do business with 20-something different companies, and we deal with most of the brand names that you know, Safeco Insurance, Travelers Insurance, Progressive, Encompass Insurance. Insurance companies have gotten really kind of smart over the years. The products that they offer, it's kind of like car companies. Like a Lexus is really a Toyota. Safeco is really owned by Liberty Mutual. Encompass is really Allstate. So, one of the things that we have to do is educate consumers that, these companies, they're not as familiar because they're not on Sunday NFL, but they're really the same company. They just slap a different logo on it.
Al, why do you think that is? Because I know that is a frustration for consumers when they have come from Allstate and then they go to Encompass and they're a little, leery of, well, who is Encompass? I haven't seen them on the commercials. Right. And then you tell them, well, it's actually an Allstate company. How's their response, and why do you think that is such a problem with the consumers?
I think it's kind of the way of the world. I mean, if you think about it, Chipotle is really McDonald's, and, Coke is really vitamin water. I think they just kind of, in their ultimate MBA wisdom, decide that we're just going to go ahead and put a different package on it and maybe reach a different segment of the population. But I think most people are kind of used to that. And when you explain it in English, not in insurance terms, it's a pretty easy way to identify with the customer.
Right. Now that makes complete sense. So you're a little bit different than some of the agents that we've had on our podcast. You came from over 25 years of experience, or you're still over 25 years of experience and continuing that. And then from my understanding, you came straight out of college. Yeah,
it's kind of funny. My dad, some people are born into things like professional sports and, music and all these cool things. My dad was an insurance guy. He was a claims guy. So I grew up, I remember being around the dinner table and my dad talking about, work and, lawsuits and litigation and all these things. And I remember saying, I don't know what I'm going to do in my life, but it's not going to be what you do because that is boring as hell. So, as life has it, just as it works out, I wound up when I got out of college. First, I was a bartender, so that was my first career, and that didn't last too long. And then I started as a claim adjuster for Nationwide Insurance. in Charlotte. And then, I found out that, as much as I didn't want to, it was kind of in my blood. So I started as a claim adjuster. I used to manage attorneys. I was a regional manager. I was a financial controller. I eventually went on to be the national director of claims for Nationwide Insurance in Columbus, Ohio. I think I moved every 17 months for 10 years.
Oh my!
And then they brought me to Texas because it was an unprofitable operation for them, and I ran the claim department for the state of Texas. I had about 600 employees, I guess.
Wow.
And then they were going to send me to Des Moines, Iowa, which is like
Des Moines, Iowa.
Yeah,
that's a difference.
Like, yeah. That's a hard sell to your wife.
Yes, it is.
So I just decided, I was in my early 30s, and I just said, the hell with it. I pulled a Jerry Maguire and just put in my 2 weeks and decided to start an agency. Initially, I was a nationwide captive agent, which I'm sure your listeners understand the difference. It's like owning a Subway franchise.
Sure.
And I did that for several years, and then that we were struggling. And then we decided to get a divorce from Nationwide. We had started the original agency from scratch. We built it up over about 3 years, and then we gave the agency back to them for free and started from scratch.
Wow.
Started from scratch again in 2010, but this time we went with a broker model and built from there. It was the scariest thing I ever did. It was the stupidest thing I ever did, and it was the best thing I ever did.
Okay, so let's back up here for just a second. I don't want to highlight the poor time in life, because I know that was not the most fun time in life, but let's talk about that for a second, because we have a lot of people who listen who are business owners, mm-hmm. who are going through challenges. Man, even BriteBee, we're a startup, and we are failing, and we're succeeding, and we're failing again, and we're having to pivot. So tell me a little bit about why you had to walk away from that and what you learned. Maybe a couple things of what you learned from it.
What was happening with them as a company at the time was, they were the economy had hit, 2008 had hit, and this is just my opinion, insurance companies have to have so much money in the bank to bring on new customers. There's a reserve adequacy. You got to have so much in savings to bring on new customers to cover their losses. I think a lot of insurance companies, when the economy hit, all of a sudden their savings account dropped like everybody else, and they started to limit, become more picky on what they were bringing on board. So at one point with Nationwide, we had built up a staff, we were really doing well, or so I thought. I mean, I didn't know any better. And it got to the point where we could only write auto insurance, and that was it. And I mean,
what a
yeah. So it was like being able to go, you used to go to the grocery store and pick out your groceries. Now you had bread and water, and good luck to you. So it, I went through a lot of soul searching, because I was thinking to myself, I could go back to corporate. I was doing fine there. I'm still fairly young, and, claims and insurance, it's like the post office. There's always work there. There's more mail coming tomorrow.
Sure.
So I really felt in my heart that, I can do this. Like, I'm just not like some Dilbertish executive that works for a big mega corporation. I can make this work, man. I can do this. I just I needed to change my business model.
You had to pivot.
Pivot. I always tell people it's like building a house from scratch, burning the damn thing to the ground, and then breaking out a 2x4 and a hammer the next day and start over again.
That's got to be scary.
It was scary. One of the greatest motivators, I had kids. I had 3 children, and, you just don't have a choice. It's so funny. I always tell the story. When I first opened my agency, I bought all my IKEA furniture, and everything looked cool. And, I had a little desk with what was a cool laptop at the time. And, I opened my business, and we had a retail storefront, and for like 5 days, the phone didn't ring. And then I decided, oh, shoot, the phone, well, no wonder why no one's calling in. The phone's got to be broken. So I picked up my BlackBerry at the time and called the main number, and sure enough, the phone rang. And then I realized,
It was working.
I always remember the old talking heads. Oh my God, what have I done? What did I do? Like, oh my God, oh my God, what am I going to do? I got to buy chocolate milk for the kids tonight. What am I going to do? And,
Right.
just the fact of, all right, you know what? I just got to roll up my sleeves and you just got to grind sausage and just start calling. Um, you know, so that's kind of our story. That's kind of, like I said, it was the best thing I ever did, and it was the stupidest thing I ever did. Um, but thank God. Thank God. And was able to hire some really good people. Um, we did okay. We're still around. 10 years later.
Well, you're definitely around, and from what I see, you're one of the top agencies in McKinney, Texas.
Yeah, well, that's like kind of being like the biggest kid, on the block. It's only a limited space.
Sure.
So
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
yeah,
You got your block.
yeah, yeah. I always say that like we win those awards, and that's the closest I'll ever get to an Oscar. But there are 72 agencies here in McKinney, so we'll take it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a suburb of Dallas, and it's about I don't know, probably 170,000 people.
How have you adapted to this ever changing world of insurance and technology? I know that you've seen a lot. How have you adapted to all of this? What have you had to change through the process to make sure that your agency continues to thrive?
I can tell you, I don't know if I don't know if we have adapted. I always tell my kids that eventually I have a feeling that insurance agents may go the way of the gas station attendant. We may not be around forever. So the only thing I cannot say that I think I've done the only smart thing I think I've done in that regard is, my staff and I are very experienced. I would venture to say that if you had your home burned down, you would want us as an agency because I used to handle those claims. I know the adjusters. I know how it works behind the scenes, and I know how to work with an insurance company. There's a lot of gray areas out there, and contrary to popular belief, you can pivot on a claim or on an unfortunate situation with an insured and get them covered or get as much covered as possible. It's a lot of little nuances and tricks of the trade that you learn over the years. So I think trying to explain to our customers that everybody's got to have insurance and you can buy it through the internet or whatever, but when your home burns down or God forbid something happens, who do you want holding your hand? And that's our special sauce. That's our special sauce, and I refuse to ever have voicemail. So when the phone rings, we pick it up.
Right there, you don't give yourself enough credit. I will say that because I'll tell you this, BriteBee believes that the agent is extremely important and that the agent's going to be around for a lot longer. And actually, that's why BriteBee is here, because we believe that we've got to take care of the people who do believe that, if I don't keep things going or if I don't start adapting more, then I might not be around. And we just believe that is far from where anyone needs to be. Now, we know it could be true, but we're excited to be a part of that growth and that adaptation as well. One of the things that you are doing well from what we can see is you're very consistent with your blog, which honestly almost no one does. So you're already setting yourself a little bit further up there. So are you writing those blogs, or do you have someone in your office who helps you with that?
Oh God, no. You know what? I'm smart enough to know what I'm not good at and outsource that. So yeah, so I don't make any bones about it. I've got a vendor who does that, and I've probably been through 10 vendors. Heck, if I just saved all the money I did on making bad hires for SEO, my agency would probably be twice as big.
Well, we know that content is extremely important, and also just educating your customers on insurance is very important as well. So tell me a little bit more about how you educate your customers. I know you do it through your blog, but do you do it in any other fashion? Social media? Do you also do it just in the way you speak to your customers and how you write their policies? What does that look like?
A couple things. One, after years of being in this business, what I've learned is that, I'm kind of an introvert by nature, so I'm not a great salesperson. I also know that I've wasted mountains of money on every form of advertising that it just doesn't seem to work for me. So we don't advertise. We don't advertise. We don't, direct mail, paid ads. We don't do anything. What we do try to do is really just kind of old school blocking and tackling of word of mouth. I think the one thing that we do really well is that we talk to people in English. Insurance people can get in the process of talking about, full coverage and indemnity and liability coverage and, all these different terms, and you can see people's eyes roll in the back of their heads.
Yes, and that's when they say that's why I hate insurance.
Yeah. So the best way to do it is just say, hey, here's your homeowner's coverage. It's $500,000. If your home burns down, you're getting a check for $500,000. Does that sound about right? And I think those are the ways, we try to explain to them what the coverage covers and really try to guide them through the process, because we're never going to be experts in knowing their lives, knowing what they need. I mean, to be honest with you, it's just impossible. But if we can teach them how to think about it, that's the best tool.
You're absolutely right. One thing we do like to do is make sure that we come away with 5 takeaways. And, what I would love to hear from you is 5 takeaways about business and your experience. And so would you be able to give us maybe 5 good takeaways that our consumers and also other agents, anyone listening could take away and apply to their life?
I would say that if anybody is still listening to this, they're probably not interested in a quote. So what I would say is that
that is probably true.
Yeah. So I think for insurance agents, I think I would say the 5 takeaways is that, one, you kind of got to build your agency with the end in mind. I always think of my business as building a house, and you kind of have to figure out what you want it to look like when you start. Otherwise, you come up with a really ugly looking house that it doesn't flow very well. The other thing I would say is for agents who are starting or making a transition, they're leaving Allstate or they're leaving Nationwide and they're trying to become an independent. There's a lot of people out there who really, there's a lot of other franchises out there that would be really interested in recruiting. We stayed away from that. Getting divorced and getting remarried to a person you don't know isn't really in your best interest. So really try to keep your independence.
Very true.
Hiring, I think, is a big one. We hire people. My hires are always never have insurance experience. I think it's better to find, if you have a smart, ethical, competitive person, you can teach them insurance. I think so often, and I've hired people with experience before, it never works out. It's almost easier to give birth than raise the dead. So, you can always give someone experience, but you're never going to give them potential.
That is very true.
Yeah.
Very true. It's very difficult to retrain people.
Oh yeah. You can't convert somebody sometimes. What I also would say is that the one thing that I've always, my dad taught me this when I was young, and this is a good little thing. Do you know why 409 is named 409? The spray that you use in your kitchen.
Oh yeah, no, I don't know. Tell me.
That was the 409th attempt to make 409, to make that formula. They failed 408.
Wow.
I mean, my kids are so sick of me saying this because I've been saying it like every 3 months for like the last 20 years. But, my dad used to drill that into my head. And, I think and you're running a startup. You're going to screw up so many times. And you just got to keep in mind that, near-death experiences are just near death. You can constantly, reinvent yourself. I don't know if that's 5, but I think that's...
I'll tell you, it's 409. That was a good one to end on, because I think it's something that everyone can apply to their life. It doesn't matter if you're an insurance startup or my wife just trying to raise 2 of our kids and myself. So, I think that is fantastic. And I'm going to remind my wife 409 much more so when I fail, so she can remember that I've got many more chances.
Yeah. I still buy 409 just for that stupid reason. I don't know if it's any good, but I just still buy it.
That is great. Well, Al, how do our listeners get in touch with you? What's the best ways to reach you?
You know what? The best way to reach us, you can go on our website and send like an email to us. It's M as in Mauceri or McKinney, or M as in Mary, insuranceagent.com, or just give us a call, 214-733-8400. We do business throughout the state of Texas, and we don't use voicemail. So if you call us, put me to my word, make sure that the phone rings 2 or 3 times and someone picks up. So it's a good little test for us.
Absolutely. And just to remind everyone, if you are looking for Al Mauceri, you can also go to BriteBee.com and go to the agent directory and find him there as well, with many other things about him. Also, we just want to remind you to like our podcast, and also please give us a review. We definitely need those and also need the feedback. But again, thank you so much for listening today, and we hope that you all have a wonderful day. Al, thank you so much. You were a joy to speak to.